Good evening here on the Central Riverhawks YouTube channel. I'm Joel McCall, visiting now with Mitch Olson. He is the head coach of the Central Riverhawk football team. He's outside. He's just enjoying the weather. That is not a green screen. I did ask him that. This is actually his backyard. So, Coach, thank you so much for joining me. Do appreciate your time.
Thanks, Joel. Just savoring this last little bit of really nice weather. So,
Yeah, we're
and it's
definitely.
nice to get out of my garage every once in a while.
Well, it was nice to be a Riverhawk, last Friday night where you guys won 43-27 over Reedsburg. Nami and I hit on it several times. We thought the team just looked different. Certainly the first quarter, not so much 13-0 plus a turnover during those, first 12 minutes. However, there was a good turnaround. You guys, the team really stepped up in that second quarter. I look at my drive chart, you get the 55-yard touchdown pass from service to growth. The muffed kickoff right after that, the 3-yard touchdown run for Rudrud, who was running very hard all night long to tie it at 13s, and then take a lead with Rudrud to Pangier for 39 yards. So big plays. Defense comes up with a couple of stops as well in that second quarter. Plus, you get an INT. I mean, it was a great turnaround. I don't know what you said at the end of the first quarter, but it worked.
I don't think I said anything at the end of the first quarter. I think it just took us a little bit to get going, and now we've really got to fix that. We've got to find a way to start fast and play like we're capable of. From the opening kickoff. But I think that the energy, the intensity, all of that just felt a lot better last Friday, and we needed it. So it felt good. It's a lot more enjoyable to talk to you after a win on Mondays too.
Well, you certainly made some changes. We noticed them as well. Trayvon Thompson playing on both ends and helping out with that offensive line. What did you see out of that group that we just hit on last week was something of a disappointment?
Yeah, I think that on the offensive line they really just came out and had that attitude that they were going to control the game, and they were going to play nasty, and I think you saw that, especially us latching onto a lineman and driving them downfield and finishing the play. That's something that we didn't do the first couple of weeks. That there was just that little bit of an edge to that group this week.
Well, and for Rude, it was his third week as the starting quarterback and likely going to get more comfortable as the season progresses as long as he stays behind center. What did you see out of him? Because for Nami and I, we both said, wow, that kid is running like he did last year. And we did not see that the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. Um, well, I think it starts up front. We gave him an opportunity to get a little bit of a head of steam. He is an extremely talented athlete, and the kid is so dang tough. Um, you know, he, he wants to punish people when he runs, and he's also fast. So I think there's maybe times that we would like him to run away from guys more, but he seeks out that contact, and just having that that style of play and that physicality to his game, really rubs off on everybody else around him. And when your quarterback is just that tough, you know, it, that attitude just spreads like wildfire throughout the rest of the team.
Yeah, and you could tell that with the team, and he was finishing runs. We certainly highlighted a couple of those on the broadcast as well. Certainly, the way he was finishing a 34-yard touchdown run for him in the second half. Gavin Shepard getting going too, and then service to Pangier again. So he had two different touchdowns from service to Pangier. So, I mean, the offense clicked, the defensive side. Wilk got a interception in the game too. So a couple of turnovers within the game, and I think that really helped you out. What did you see defensively? Because you said last week that might have been your biggest disappointment.
Yeah. It was good for us to get the turnovers, but we can't rely on the turnovers. We've got to be more solid with our run defense. And then when the ball's in the air, we've just I know that we have all the talent in the world back there. But a lot of those guys haven't played a whole lot of snaps back there. And once their confidence comes along, and they've been baptized by the fire a little bit. they're pretty green behind the ears. But as the season goes on, I think those defensive backs are just going to get better and better. And they have all the physical tools to make some of those plays, and I would expect us to make those coming forward. We were a little bit better in the run game, but there's still a lot that we need to take care of. And I think we have a good idea of what they're going to try to do next week in the run game, and we've just got to do the things that we're capable of doing, and if we can do that, we'll be all right.
Well, one guy that kind of stuck out to me last week on the defensive side, so I'm going to hit you with one individual, and that's Seehafer. I really think he's playing well, and I thought this past week was his best game.
It was, he flies around, he's all over the field, literally all over the field. He runs and he plays tough. He wants to hit people. But again, that's another guy that he didn't play football last year. His sophomore year, he was a good player for us, and it's just taken him a little bit to get back into the swing of things. But it's obvious when you turn on the tape or when you're watching the game, it's a talented kid that is always around the ball. It doesn't matter where the ball is; he's near it somewhere. He's playing tough.
Yeah, and he's racking up the tackles for the Central Riverhawk football team. And here you go with rivalry week. You got 1 and 2, both of you. Onalaska lost last week, 34-20 to Holman. So they're sitting the same way you are as far as overall record, 1 and 2. However, you're 1-0 in the MVC. They're not because they lost to Holman. So you know how big this game is. Obviously, I don't have to hype it too much. I don't need a 2-hour pregame to talk about Central and Onalaska.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know if I'd call it a rivalry game. I know that a lot of people look forward to it. But we need to just go out there and play them as if it's anybody else. They've had our number here these past couple of years. But if we can go out, we need to have a great week of practice. We can't be thinking about Friday already. We had a good Monday, but it's light, and come Tuesday and Wednesday, we really need to get after it. We need to have that physicality and the intensity all the way throughout the week, so that we're sure that it's going to be there on Friday.
Yeah, for sure. Well, give me your keys then to talk about the Hilltoppers and what do you know about them and those keys to victory.
Yeah. The Cornett kid is really, really good. He's a talented kid, one of the best athletes in the conference. When he gets rolling, he's really hard to stop. So, we can't let him get in space and bust off the big ones. And to do that, we need to be really sound with Onalaska's blocking schemes and how we treat what type of blocks we're seeing. We need to take care of that to be able to corral him. That's going to be the big one. These past couple years with Onalaska, and it's a different team this year. But we've got to be able to limit the big plays through the air. It's been a little bit of a bugaboo here for us. And the offense is a little different, but the Cole kid's a really good quarterback. He's a very, very smart kid, and he's a heck of a competitor. So that's the type of guy that you want playing quarterback. And they still got some good athletes. With the Chenault kid playing a little bit both ways. The Summerfield kid has done a really good job for them at receiver. Those are the things that we need to take care of on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, we've got to take care of the ball. We need to be able to execute. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot. We're pretty clean penalty wise the first 2 weeks, and then there are flags flying all over the place on us last Friday night. So we really need to be disciplined and make sure that we get that stuff cleaned up because we can't afford to get behind the chains. We can't afford to give them free first downs. So those are things that we need to take care of.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on the flags too. That was becoming an issue last week against Reedsburg. So, well, that we're plan on covering it. I haven't heard the go ahead that we'll be there, but I'm assuming that we will be and broadcasting coming up on Friday. Nami and I are planning to do that game. So it is up at Onalaska. That's where the Riverhawks will play on Friday. We have a big week. I'm going to get to that in just a second. However, we've been rolling with Coach Olson asking me a question. So go ahead, Coach.
Fireside question of the week. This is
Right.
a big win for the Cyclones last week, and there we go. Joel's a diehard. What is the what was the biggest win for you in Cyclone history, regardless of sport? I don't know if it was their basketball team or maybe a football game, but what was it?
I'd say it's probably the Oklahoma State win that they had a few years ago. Well, it's been more than a few years ago, but Oklahoma State came up there and it was like I don't think it was a Thursday night game, but it was a weird night that they played, and Oklahoma State was ranked heavily and came in there and they figured they were just going to roll, and they were kind of a national champion type team that year. I'm blanking on the year, but Iowa State getting that win was absolutely huge. And so that, and then I'm going to tell you one other game because I was there. The best game that I've ever seen live there was Seneca Wallace's run. I was there in the student section when Seneca Wallace ran about 85 yards for 37 and just ran all over the field. It was I don't know, the play is very hard to find, but I know it's out there somewhere and you can find it. And that is probably the most exciting play I've ever seen. But their biggest win since I've been a fan is probably that win over Oklahoma State.
Was Dan Campbell there that time
Yes.
too? Yeah.
Well,
Or Dan Campbell? What am I doing? It's
no,
not.
not.
No.
Um,
What? Matt Campbell?
yes, Matt Campbell was not there. I don't believe it with the Oklahoma State win. I'd have to go back and look because, and I know McCarney was there obviously when the Seneca Wallace run, but yeah, Oklahoma State. I'd have to go back and look and see who the head coach was. If it was very early on the Campbell side.
He's got a knack for pulling off the upsets. It seems like.
Yes, he does. He's a good
I
coach,
hope you
and
don't lose him, Joel.
I
Next
was
thing you
just gonna
know,
say I hope they lock him
SEC
down for
land.
a long time.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him go anywhere. So,
Mhm.
yep. Well, we appreciate your question, Coach Olson, and I am going to run through a little bit. So you just hang tight for just a second. We have a huge week. So boys soccer is tomorrow. They play on Alaska, and that's at Field for Kids. Nami and Ray are going to be doing that one. Tuesday night, tomorrow night is also Toma versus Central over at Toma for volleyball. I will cover that by myself at 7 p.m. So we'll have dual streams. Got to watch out which one you're clicking on for soccer and volleyball. Thursday night is Holman volleyball at home. So that game will be covering as well. I'm told that Nami is quitting on me that night because of a lame Dolphins game. And so I will be there covering everything by myself that night as well. Well, I think Ray's coming. But that's essentially saying that I'm doing everything by myself. And then Friday night, we do plan on the Onalaska football game with Central over at Onalaska. And that'll be the full crew of Ray, Nami, and I. So that's what we have going on this week. We hope that we have a few more coaches' interviews. And Nami is working on student athlete interviews. However, he's running into some technical problems, go figure, at school. So we'll see if he can get that all rectified by the time we hit Wednesday after a couple of nights of broadcasts. But Coach Olson, we do appreciate your time. Thank you for hanging with me. Thank you for your question. Go Cyclones.
Thanks, Joel.
You bet. Good night to be a Riverhawk as well. For Coach Olson, I'm Joel McCall. Thank you so much for tuning in here on the Central Riverhawks YouTube channel.